Hello and welcome, everyone.
Hello, hello.
And I'm hoping you're alive. If you are, you're gonna love learning about going near to death today.
Near death and maybe a little bit about past lives.
Just near death, like adjacent, like death adjacent. You know, like close, but not there yet. And then you kind of get sent back. Yeah, one of those. So, first of all, why am I so scared of dying?
Well, most people are really not afraid of dying. They're really afraid of living. Yes?
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, because, death is inevitable.
Yep.
And, when you look at death from many different cultures and different perspectives, death is not a bad thing. It's just a transition of form.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's like changing the window. Right now I'm seeing everything through here. Then I probably get an expanded... I don't know. I can't even understand it. It's so good. Can't even understand it.
You look at the Tibetans, when they take some of the most sacred people that, whether it's a Dalai Lama or very, very important figures, they put them next to the river to let the vultures feed on them.
It's a good way to go out.
Okay, and in some cultures, and particularly in Western culture in the United States, you get some people, like whether it's in New Orleans, it's like a Mardi Gras. Party dancing in the streets.
Yeah, a lot of places celebrate it.
And other places, it's very somber. You go into this little room, and caskets there, and people are mourning. It's like death. It's inevitable.
It's also... There's many deaths, I feel like.
Sure.
There's many deaths.
Yeah.
I've seen some people where the child died inside of them, and I just couldn't... I could see that they'd been withered by life so much that their own inner child...
Sure.
Basically died.
Yeah, it doesn't really die. It just goes dormant.
Or according to their kind of feeling.
To them, it's dead. Yeah, it's covered up.
Then there's
by pain and trauma.
So when we're saying actual near-death experiences, like what do we mean near-death experiences? This is exactly what we mean.
Wikipedia says
a profound personal experience associated with death or impending death, which researchers claim share similar characteristics. I can barely talk. When positive, such experiences may encompass a variety of sensations, including detachment from the body, feeling of levitation, total serenity, security, warmth, and the experience of absolute disillusion and the presence of light.
Very true.
That sounds like a couple psychedelics I've done. If you've done Bufo, you know what I mean? If you've done Bufo, you know what I mean. You know that moment when you left and then you literally have to detach and you're no, I don't want to do it. And then you're like, yeah. And then and you shoot off into the infiniteness of love for 15 minutes having a cosmic orgasm. Anybody? I'm not recommending you should do any of this stuff. This is not at all a recommendation for you to go out and do.
It's like I've shared with you before. That if it's really your heart, it's your journey to do it and it's part of your heart's calling to do it, embrace it. But if you're doing it simply out of curiosity, I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
Because, as I've mentioned before, as we really prepare the ground, and that means as we do what's in front of us to do, all of those experiences that we believe that we're supposed to have more than likely are going to come.
Yeah, and we kind of create them.
Absolutely, by creating that fertile soil.
So what does, I've always felt like, people who've had a near-death experience, they get something. They get something the rest of us don't get. What is that kernel?
Well, what the kernel is once you've been to the other side, you know where you're going. You know where you came from. It's the light. It's the presence of love. It's, many, many different names. The only time that I entered into it, it was simply that. It was this absolute love, this absolute connection that didn't need anything else.
And I feel like that is one of those things which once you have to see it to believe it, but once you see it, it makes a lot more sense.
And it used to be that oftentimes the only times that you would hear about near death is when someone literally, it was caused by some major trauma, some disease or something that came on rather suddenly. Okay. Where nowadays it's really becoming more known that you don't have to have that kind of an experience to get jolted into that near-death experience.
So what do you mean by that? Like what?
There's a great movie. There's here. While I'm talking, do me a favor, look up movies for near-death. And there's one with I think it's Heaven is Real. That's what it is. It's called Heaven is Real. And the young man, a very young boy, he died. And there was no trauma associated to it. And it was really powerful for me because I didn't have to physically be in a car accident. I didn't have to have this extraordinary, this big trauma to trigger it. It simply happened naturally for me. And I knew something was coming because a couple of times before that, what had happened was I experienced what's called Kundalini energy moving through the body.
Yep.
The first time was a subtle sort of awakening for me. The second time, when the energy started moving through me, was extremely powerful and painful because I didn't really understand what I was supposed to do or how I was supposed to receive it or to accept that kind of energy. Yep. And I was literally bent over just, what am I doing? And Laura, the woman that I was with at the time, she had called her friend, an Egyptologist in Egypt, and said, what do we do? This is what's happening to him. And he said, stand him up. Let the energy move through him. Allow it to flow. And oftentimes, before that, or what happens is we get what's called crab claw. It's where the amount of energy that's going through the body, particularly the extremities, the fingers and the toes, it literally, your hand feels and your feet feel like claws of a clam or a lobster. They're big and they're massive. And you can just feel the energy just pulsing through it. Yeah. But, so these are sort of preludes to kind of what happens before a near-death experience or entering the other side. And my point is that you don't have to die, or you don't have to be in this
a traditional near-death experience.
And that's where the movie I just shared sort of shows that. And they're just like, and for most of us, like his parents responded, what the hell do we do with this? Yeah. How do we navigate this? This is beyond what we've learned and what we've been taught in our structured religions. So
wait, so you're saying near-death experiences can happen without getting near-death?
Well, actually, near-death, no. Or would you say near-death is not triggered by a huge trauma, say for instance a car accident or something that happens, because also, and this is my belief, that if it is not our time to leave this body, this plane, there is intervention that can help and you don't leave. But we're talking about near death. Like with mine, I didn't have some big trauma like a car accident, and I went flying out the window, and my head's cut.
So wait, what was it? What was your experience?
What was my experience?
Yeah, what happened?
I owned a cigar shop in Sedona, Arizona, and I would sit and pray every day as I waited for customers. And praying, I simply mean meditation, just being in the sun, feeling the warmth of the sun out in the little common area outside the door, and I'd sit there and meditate. And I would just empty myself as much as I could of thought and just feel the rays of the sun, feel my body, and just, just enter it fully as presently as I could. Well, like I said, I'd had a couple of incidences or a couple of experiences of Kundalini energy. It's the chi. It's the primary life force that moves through the body. And so I'm sitting outside, sitting in the sun, and the only thing that I could remember before it started was I felt this deep, deep, deep sense of peace and stillness. No thoughts, no anything other than I could just feel the energy, the rays of the sun, and I could feel my connection. And all of a sudden it started. Okay? And what I mean it started is my body started a convulsion. And the convulsion got stronger and stronger and stronger. And then I thought, oh my God, I better go inside the cigar shop, because if somebody sees me out here going through this, they're going to think I'm nuts. And I had known people, one in particular, a couple in particular, when I was doing my master's in transpersonal psychology. A woman had shared her story, which was exactly the same as mine. But what happened with her is they put her in a psychiatric ward and medicated her. Eventually she got to the point and said, either medicate me to death or let me get out of here. And she finally got out. And then she finally understood, and her family understood, that there was something other than some kind of schizophrenia or something that was going on. So back to mine. So this is happening, and my body is convulsing, and there was a woman that I was very close to, and we were very close friends, and eventually we had past lives together, a whole other story. And I would call out to her, in Sedona. I don't care where I was. Please come, and that's it. Boom. 2 minutes later, she walks through the door. This happened all the time. So she did. She came in and she saw me behind the cash register in the cigar store. And I'm on the ground just shaking and trembling. And sort of this orgasmic thing is happening. I can't speak. And she sees me and she's like, oh my God, what happened? Later she shared with me, I thought your mother, your father, one of your family members died because I didn't know what to do with you. So she took me, and the only thing I could speak was take me into the humidor. And it was a humidor probably as big as this room, probably by 10 by 10, 500 boxes of cigars. Okay? And we're in the room. I immediately collapsed to the ground again, sort of facing east. I sort of put all this together later, sort of my representation or interpretation of me facing Mecca. I'm sort of semi-prostate, and this is happening through me. And it's so intense that I just get moments of breath that I can just, and then all of a sudden, I see the light. And then I'm in the light. And then I know I am the light. There is no separation. And I knew, because what happened next was this ball of energy. It was like a hand, but it wasn't a hand. It was simply a ball of energy moving towards me and said, you can come home now. And I went, home? What do you mean, home? I went right back into my body because I could observe and kind of see what was happening. And I entered back into my body, and there was Laura, still sitting in lotus with her hands over me, holding the energy. When I came back, I looked at all of the boxes of cigars, and I knew every human being that had touched anything in that room that was associated to those cigars from the moment it was a seed being planted in mother until it got into that room. I knew every human being that touched any one of them. I didn't know it here. I knew it here in the matrix. It was like this field and fabric that I could just feel and sense it all, that I was part of it. I could see it. And then when I got to my knees, I turned towards Laura, and I still remember what she had on: the black velveteen dress, the jean, and the concho belt of Navajo is what she was wearing. And I got to my knees and I looked at her. I knew who she was in many lifetimes, and I said, I know who you are. She said, yes, I know, and she called me by one of the names during the Civil War. My name was Morgan, and she said, I know. And which triggered a whole series of past lives that it's a whole other story. But eventually what happened was I came out of it. It wasn't for 3 days that I was in this state. It's called the state of samadhi. And I later found out that it was actually called a state of satori. Because and I'll share the difference. Samadhi means you have full enlightenment. You're enlightened. You're in that state of bliss of knowing that you are creation. Okay, and you see all this as a beautiful gift, and you interact with it from that point of view. Yep. The other is a state of satori. You're given a glimpse into samadhi. And I didn't understand all of this until about a year later. And let me take a step back. So I came out of it. Well, actually, I was in it for 3 days. I went home. I had to be taken home because I couldn't function. I mean, I was just in this absolute state of bliss where I had no thoughts for 3 days. All I could feel was every cell in my body was that of Buddha, Christ, Krishna, of Source, love, kindness, and compassion. That was what was emanating from me. And people would come and sit with me, and they would just start laughing. And I sat in my chair in my living room, and it was just absolute bliss. Now, at the end of 3 days, I went into a state of depression for a year that I would wish upon no one, that they call the dark night of the soul. Extremely painful. But what I learned was when I read works of Robert Assagioli, who was a psychotherapist, psychoanalyst in Italy, after Jungian, who has a school in Italy that this is what they deal with, the light. Yep. Okay? And then the other one, and he described exactly what had happened to me, because up until this point, I got bits and pieces, tidbits, and it's like, somebody please help me understand what's happening to me. And I read his works. I'm just in tears. It's like, thank God somebody understands what's going on.
Yeah.
And the other was Osho, who was also known previously as Bhagwan Rajneesh.
Yep.
And he shared in one of his books, I don't believe it was Cone of the Relationships. It was another one, but he also described it. And he's the one that said it's not a full-blown samadhi. It's a satori.
Yeah.
It is a window into that. And it's the same thing that in scriptures, and I'd read or I'd heard from teachers that Jesus said, do not try and take heaven by storm, because it can kill you. It's exactly what he's talking about, is this flow of chi, of this energy, kundalini, that goes through the body. That's why when people that are training and learning kundalini, you have to have a master, someone that can help you through it, because these sorts of things will activate, and it can be extraordinarily painful and deadly. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, and I got a view into a samadhi. I know with every cell of my being what's on the other side.
Yep.
However, so many people. I remember once where I was in a unity center in Sedona, and we're sharing sort of these experiences, and I was sharing mine. And I remember this woman sitting next to me. She's like, "Oh, I want to experience that." And I looked at her, I almost had tears in my eyes, and I said, be careful for what you wish. Because so often the ego jumps in and wants to, to experience something.
3 days of bliss and a year of depression. That's what I want.
A year of depression that was so severe that the only way that I could describe it was as though someone had my brain was out here, and someone had a vice on my head, and it was just beyond pain. But that year had a really, really powerful purpose for me. And what the last part that I read, because this was a year later, after I'm in all of this, that Osho said, you will know the level of darkness equal to the level of light that you experience. So you'll understand the wholeness of this place called duality.
You have to.
Yeah. I mean, that's my experience. And again,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so deep. Thank you for sharing that. Because that's, that really describes that threshold, like getting to that edge of understanding what is the other side. Once you see that, once you understand that it's like, it's transcending from this level to another level, and there's bliss.
But you know what? I hear what you're saying, and oftentimes people, I want that bliss.
I want more bliss.
Do you know why you're here?
For bliss.
No. You came from it.
And it wants to experience bliss.
You're going to go back to it.
Yep.
Okay? What it's asking you to do now, and Courtney Walsh wrote that beautiful poem, and I'll paraphrase it as best I can, that, dear humans, you have it all wrong. You think you're here to master unconditional love. You think this, that, and the other. She said, dear humans, you came from it. You're going back to it. It's your natural state. You're here to learn hot love, sweaty love, universal love, redemptive love, painful love, so that you'll understand its wholeness. It's not about how quickly can I go back to where I came from. Yeah. It's like, how present can you be now? And see the beauty.
Because you came from it to experience it here.
At least that's my understanding, based on what I understand today.
Because, it doesn't get much more beautiful than this life that we're living. It's as beautiful as you can make it.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget that we're still human. That we will have pain. We will have suffering at times. We have all of these things. Yep. But once you get to this level of understanding or opening, bless you, to this level of opening, everything changes. The whole game shifts. And then it allows you to see from a very different perspective. Doesn't mean you won't feel pain. Doesn't mean you won't feel discomfort. Because we're still human. That's part of it. We've been given these senses. We've been, and even beyond that, to experience this.
So how come sometimes it takes that near-death experience for people to realize it? What's keeping us from it?
Because I believe now, and if we really look at this from an evolutionary process, used to be that somebody had to have this major accident. Now we don't have to have a major accident. I believe that we are now in a level of transition in our humanness, reconnecting to Source, where we don't have to do that. That it can happen spontaneously and happen in a very short period of time for those who are ready.
So is that still something that you think would need to come down in this unique way, or is that something can be taught, can be...
Like I said,
can be experienced in other ways?
It's like, people will ask, well, if I meditate 50 hours, a week or whatever, well, when will I reach enlightenment? That's not the point. Yeah. And the goal is not to reach enlightenment. Like Buddha said, what did meditation give you? Well, I can tell you what it has taken away, and I no longer have. Yeah. This craziness, this whatever, all these things. But it's about entering into that silence.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Oh.
And like I said, and I can't say it a million times, that it is really, really about preparing the ground. And if it's meditation, if it's breath work, if it's being a better human, whatever it means to you, move towards that. And I promise you, if it is your journey to experience it in this lifetime, you will.
Do you think a lot of people have the journey to experience this now? Because it feels like there's more people waking up.
Yeah.
Does that mean more people will have this experience, or already somehow having this experience? Is there some kind of shift going on?
I believe with what's going on in the world, how we're having this clearing, this cleansing of Mother Earth, yes. What it's really evolutionarily, I believe, that it is doing exactly that. It is bringing those who are ready to this state or place of being, of awareness that you are connected to all things, okay? And if you're in that space of thought, in that space of being, I can only say it's beyond whatever you can imagine in your humanness.
So do you see the world as being a bright place to be for the next while? Because it's pretty bleak right now.
No, it's really not. It's really not. It is if you take the...
But there's a monster out there that's like killing everybody. It's the coronas.
Well, that's just the beginning, okay? It's going to go on for about 3 more years, pretty intensely, and they're going to throw more stuff at us as human beings. I believe that there are going to be several billion based on things that were shown to me 10 years ago and 6 years ago. That's why I'm in Bali. That there will be several billion that leave the planet. Okay?
Like died.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But, or I should say and, if you're of the mindset that if you leave this physical form, that's all there is, it's very limited. But if you believe, or you're at least open to the possibility that... Where was I going to go with this? I just lost my train of thought. Okay. If you're of the mindset that everything has a purpose within the divine plan, okay? Why not? Because if you really look at the physical body, this is a beautiful gift. It's an apparatus for that essence to live within us to experience this. And who's to say, and I don't know that this is for certain, all I can share with you is what I feel and sense, and sort of an inner knowing that if I came into this existence, and I'm really not consciously aware of it yet, but I was leaving so that I could share my love with those who are going to remain, I go back to Source. No more beautiful place. It's like in scriptures and also within the Vedas, they talk about it. They talk about that my Father has created lokas for all of you, basically homes, houses, places for you to return to. Okay? So the Vedas are some of the oldest known written material, spiritual writings beyond the Bible, way beyond, which they share a lot of the writings. But so I don't want to get too far into the rabbit hole. But see, I just lost my... So there's a lot of people that are going to be leaving, but it's also part of their journey to leave love. And if you really think about it, if you're of the mindset that if Source is all that is, it's omnipresent, it's omnipotent, it's everything.
Then why wouldn't they want to also be that?
Yeah, why isn't that part of it?
Yeah.
That it's experiencing itself through us as itself as us. So you can take the perspective that this is Armageddon, this is the end of the world. Great. Live it out. Promise you.
What about the beginning of a new world?
And that's exactly what this is. In the Native American traditions, we call this the New Earth. Okay?
Yep.
This has not happened once. This has happened 4 times in history.
This is the forest fire that makes the forest grow.
Yeah, exactly. And again, and this is again my perspective, my belief systems, based on what's happened to me, that I sort of view planet Earth as the root chakra of the 7 chakras of this universe within ours. Okay, I'm not talking about outside of here. And that we're the densest in terms of density. When I don't mean densest like we're the dumbest.
We're pretty close.
No, not true. That we have a density here, and what happens here affects the rest of this. It reverberates. Okay, it's just like a pebble in the pond. So this is an important place.
Yeah.
And yet it's unique, and it's also insignificant in some ways. But in the scheme of everything, it's so
nothing.
small, because when you really look at NASA's representation of the cosmos, and they show us in this huge Milky Way, in this cosmos, you can't even see us.
We can't even. We almost don't even exist. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah. Hopefully, I didn't overwhelm you.
No, it's you just told me that my reality doesn't exist. Other than that, everything is fine.
Your reality does exist to the extent that you will feel and experience your reality based upon your frame of reference. You give it meaning.
Exactly. You
Creator doesn't. Creator doesn't.
You create it, basically.
Yeah. Creator says, Source says, I have put everything in the cosmos for you to draw from.
Yep.
What do you want to draw from?
Yep.
What do you want to experience?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 100% a believer in the idea that this is just a video game. That's the best way that I can kind of paraphrase. This is just a video game that we've come here to play it the best that we can. And what the goal of this game is to just play the game. Just be part of it, be in it, just be. You know, the point isn't to actually like rush through it, like achieve things. All the things that we make it to be is usually like, especially, you know, I know people who've had near-death experiences. I know there's people who've had psychedelic experiences. Some people just did it with meditation. But you realize, like, what really matters.
Yeah.
You know, and then it always just comes back to love.
Yeah, pretty much.
Love, like in
how do you enter
around you?
Yeah. How do you enter the present moment? The most present as you can.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean we don't use our mind and use our facilities to look at past experiences, or even have a general tendency to hope for the future. Or it doesn't mean those
or plan for it, or work towards it, or whatever. Yeah,
those should also exist.
Yeah.
But when we really stay in the most present moment that we can, we're directed from a very different place, as opposed to what we learned and conditioned to learn.
Yeah, and I also feel like when you're in the present the whole time, you enjoy the whole process.
Yeah.
You enjoy the process for what it is, a process, instead of as a destination that you're trying to go through.
Yeah, some people I've heard they share it's
almost like it's almost like, you know, we feel like we're going through life to get to death. And it's like, then it feels like the end of this thing.
But death doesn't really exist. We just leave one form and enter another.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, we're living to die. Like they would say, you know, not dying to live.
Yeah, and some people say that we're here to undo all of the shit we learned so that we can actually enter into some new state of being.
And that's what we're here doing. We're learning about the shit that we learned the wrong way.
Yeah, I don't say wrong way, because, you know, in the scheme of things, there is, in my perspective, it's either life-giving or it's not life-giving. Yeah,
death is literally not life-giving.
Sure it is. Why isn't it? You're just taking on another form.
Death is what creates life in the first place.
Yeah, and like you said at the very beginning, we die many, many times. We do. Our beingness, our ego, those parts of us, will die over and over and over again. Why?
Yeah.
Why? It's the alpha, the omega. It's the death. It's the dying. Why? I believe it's so that we can be the phoenix rising to understand a new level of being.
Yeah, the old has to die in order for the new to exist.
Yeah.
And I've gone through that, you know, now I've gone through enough stages in my life where I've had to kind of watch an old version of me die and a new version be reborn stronger and more capable than the previous.
And the beautiful thing is when the old dies, thank it.
Yeah.
Thank it for allowing it to be a part of you, and then you move on.
Yeah.
It's just gratitude.
Yeah, it's true. Like, and then you know, when you're doing it right in the middle of it, gratitude, and just having that life, because like when you're in the moment, like I constantly find myself, I'm not saying I'm in the moment all the time. I'm really busy apparently, but whenever I do get that moment, which I get them like multiple times a week, I'll be doing something and I'll be going through it, and then I'll just be like,
yeah,
this is great. Like life right now is great. I feel great. Things are great. I have great people around me. Everything's just great, and I just feel thankful. You know, and like now, whenever I eat, I just feel so like I'm like, wow, we're gonna eat this delicious food in this delicious place. Like, how much more blessed can we get?
Yeah, but I want to share something. I want to share something. As we're sitting here talking about this, all jubilant and excited.
Yep.
There are those who are still in pain and suffering. And one of the things that I would share and reach out to them who are in that place is in knowing that all you have to do is ask for help. And that whatever your belief system is, there will be experiences, there will be things that will happen. And also what it's teaching you, or it taught me at the moment, was to see the subtleties along the way. What I mean by subtleties, I mean by the smile, the word that was spoken, someone's love that they had for me. I saw it with such clarity, or I don't even want to say clarity. I saw it in a different way for the first time. Mm-hmm. And it's like for that year that I went through that pain and suffering, and it was suffering, believe me, oh my God. I wanted to commit suicide almost every day. Mm-hmm. My family was frightened that I was going to take my life, people around me. And that part of me, that animating part of me, the soul, that I believe, it wasn't my journey. I had to understand that part of the journey so that when people start popping like popcorn, which is what I believe is going to happen, like you're saying, that we'll start entering these different states of awareness, okay? That it's my gift. Part of my journey is to hold that space with them so they don't have to travel for a year through pain and suffering. I've seen it happen.
Exactly. And being able to recognize it and see it, and see what's actually going on. Because most of the time when you try to get advice on that.
Yeah, and it was funny because when it happened to me, near-death experience, I mean, I knew about near-death experience, and, you know, I saw the stories about, oh my God, this happened. It was trauma. I was in an operating room. I'm above my body. Until I realized it was the first Conscious Films Festival in Sedona, Arizona, with a young lady that I met, Danette Walpert, before she even created it. And it was really interesting because Deepak Chopra was there, Gene Houston, a lot of people were there, and I was part of the conference just as a helper, volunteer. And I'll never forget, they talked a little bit about near-death, okay? And in that room, there were probably 300 people. And I always thought I was kind of like out here on my own. It was just this rare phenomena. And then all of a sudden they asked the question, well, how many of you have had sort of this kind of experience? There were 50, 75 people that raised their hand. I thought, oh my God. You know, so yeah. But that's, I can talk about that, but that's for another time.
So you definitely, because I believe this, that it's just going to, this pressure cooker that they've created right now is going to be the reason why so many people pop into their next version.
Yeah.
And it's that's where I see, you know, everything that we look at as negative usually is the pressure that's required to create the positive change that we've been waiting for.
Bingo. I used to call it the dynamic tension. I used to call it the dynamic tension of the soul. That we as human beings would not change unless the pain was so great that we had to. Where now what's happening is the fields of energy, and I could talk a little bit about the Schumann resonance, which is literally the frequency of Mother Earth. Science has literally proven that initially the hum or the resonance of this universe and Mother Earth, 7.84, it's the sound of Om.
Yeah.
I mean, go figure. The Hindus have known this for how many generations? For thousands of years. It's Om. That's why do we chant this? Because that's our reconnection to Source. So beautiful. Yeah.
And today it's been taken over and controlled in ways that we can't even.
Yeah.
It's manipulated in ways that we can't even.
Yeah, I can share ways it's manipulated.
Right here.
There.
Right here.
Well, but let's talk about modern music.
Yeah.
Modern music is.
What a little trick they pulled on us there.
It's tuned to 440 hertz as opposed to 432, which is a natural resonance with Mother Earth.
Yeah.
Why do you think the Rothschilds and those people in power did that?
Yeah.
So that it would knock us slightly off kilter vibrationally, I believe. Some people say, oh, this is all crazy, this is all phooey, this is all whatever. And it's like, my first question would be, well, why would you tinker with it in the first place?
Yep.
If it's a natural state, why would you tinker with it? Same reason why when we talk about people that are behind the stuff that's happening nowadays, if they put particular particles in your body that actually now can be patented, guess what?
You're patented.
Bingo. By
You're
law,
patented.
Yeah.
You are property of the patent
originator
holder.
Yeah.
And then your human rights are canceled because you're no longer considered a human.
You're no longer a free and sentient being.
Yep, because you voluntarily signed up for something that modified your DNA and turned you into a transhuman.
So let's go back to near death.
And aliens. There are aliens.
Cyborgs.
Cyborgs.
Yeah, but that's a whole nother conversation.
I'm not a cyborg. I'm not a cyborg at all.
When Elon Musk, he said,
technology in my face, and I have this thing running my life. But I'm not a cyborg.
No. When Elon Musk said, you already have AI because you have a phone, I say poppycock.
Yeah, we do.
Because we still have freedom of choice
to
pick this up or not pick it up.
No, I don't. I have the choice just to sit on it all day and right in the morning, just jump on it
and
check everything.
You just said the absolute truth.
Yeah.
I have a
choice.
Bingo. What do you choose? Do you want to choose to participate?
I choose games on my phone.
Or do you choose to use it in a way that can be beneficial? It's one of those things with the internet. You hear it all the time. People talk about the internet. There's a plethora of information, but very little wisdom.
Yeah, we wouldn't be sitting here talking if it wasn't for the internet.
Yeah.
And we couldn't even bring this to you without the internet.
Yeah.
I've learned everything I've learned because of the internet. So it's it's on there. You just got to go looking for it.
Same reason why it was written in scriptures, and it's something to the effect that Jesus said that this will happen again in 2,500 years, which is now.
Nice.
Okay. And when we talk about this near death, this awakening state, or whatever is happening in consciousness, which is ultimately, I believe, it's our awareness that we are part of all.
Do you think it's the death of the collective us, which is being reborn after a near-death experience?
What do you mean the collective of us?
If I am everything and one, what if this is like a near-death experience of the one?
And we're absolutely.
This is like one big near-death experience for the source.
When you look at a microcosm and micro and macro, you look at the branches of a tree, and then you look at the branches within the lungs.
Yep.
There is such a representation from nature to the human.
Yeah.
And I've thought of that very many times. It's like, that's why I always say, when I do 4 directions from a First Peoples nation, is when I talk about Tonkashila, which is creator. Please remind us that we are you, you are us. You know yourself through us as yourself. We co-create. I'm a unique aspect of it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why they say that within one of your cells contains all that there is.
Yeah. And every square millimeter of this existence contains 39 orders of magnitude more energy than the entire universe, apparently, mathematically speaking.
Yeah.
That's a cubic millimeter, guys.
So what does this all mean?
What
does this all mean? Near death, cosmos, all these things we're talking about. Having had a near-death experience tells me one thing. How do I live in the moment and express from a life-giving sense of my part in terms of co-creating? Okay?
So how do I live in the moment?
You live in the moment. Well, good ways to start. We talked about it, meditation. You come into this state of mindfulness instead of this state of chasing your tail like a rat, which is what the powers to be wanted you to do. Because if you're chasing your tail for the next buck, the next material good, guess what? They got you.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if you stop and you reflect and you look at your life and say, was I sold a bill of goods? Okay. And if I come to that understanding that I was, do I hate them? I chose to be a part of it.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Now, if you wish to shift, I now choose not to be a part of it and to express that as my being. So, yeah, is it right or wrong?
Yeah, that's kind of a crazy, that's a really cool shift when that happens. When you just decide, I don't want to be a part of all that.
And then that you want to be a part of something else. And, within the indigenous nations, they've talked about this, that there will come a time of the rainbow children who will learn once again to live with Mother in balance, okay? And the 5 elements. It's happening right now. Because we have raped and pillaged Mother Earth through consumerism to the point that many refer to the human being as a parasite.
Even those are human beings referring to us.
Yeah. So I believe this is a time in human history, whether it's the Great Enlightenment, all the periods that we've gone through in terms of evolution. This is also a period of time at the end of the Kali Yuga. All of these things are happening right now, okay? Is the internet good or bad? Is our phones good or bad? I view it, it's allowed us to be in communication instantaneously. So that if there is the possibility of a shift, of seeing things from a different perspective.
Oh, it has shown us from those different perspectives. I mean, I know, a whole generation that's raised on the knowledge that was on the internet that allowed people to open their minds.
Yeah, everybody under the age of 25, 28.
We've been listening to the most enlightened minds for a long time because it just feels like there's a thirst for knowledge, especially being in this life when you're young. You're just looking for what is this thing? You're just feeling out what is this thing, and then as you search more and more, and you get that guidance, and you get people ahead of time like, hey. I learned on my journey. I learned it like this. On my journey, I learned this. And getting to hear that from across the world. As long as you're listening to the right sources, again, what's the right source? But just as long as you're listening to a lot of different viewpoints, you learn a lot.
I'm going to bring another perspective to this conversation. What you just shared. I also view that many of the youngsters under the age of 30, 25, are entering into AI.
Yeah, we're building it. It's called blockchain. We're turning everything into computers and running everything by the computers by themselves.
And
they're going to think for themselves.
There's from a frame of reference of people being sentient beings of free choice, this is a time in human history where we are being asked, and it's frightening on some levels. I mean, frightening from the perspective of it's not regulated. And who's in charge? Corrupted political officials, people who have so much money, the half a dozen people that you could name, they're driving the show. And oftentimes when a few individuals are running the show, it is not for the best interest of the masses.
Why would you imagine that?
Yeah, because
why would that system get messed up?
But whatever. But all of this is about choice. And we are being asked at a point in human history, where do we want to go? Because movies, everything that has been shown to us, my belief is universal law says we have to be shown which path is on a trajectory. So we have to make a choice.
It's different for everyone. And, right now, that's what I'm seeing too. I'm seeing us, from the technical side of things, I'm literally watching us be jacked into the matrix. And it's literally being built by guys like me. It's called blockchain. It's one of the first steps that, we have Neuralink being developed. We have AI cars being developed. We're basically decentralizing and automating the entire world, including banks, including governments, including everybody, making global structures that are centrally and decentrally controlled.
Yeah, but
and that is going to take over control from humans in a major way.
Yeah, and that's really where there needs to be some sort of human regulation, something that doesn't allow those few to determine what it is for everyone.
It's over, guys. I'm sorry. It's over.
Not over, because one of the things
crypto, and they're gonna use that as one of the means.
One of the things that I know, and I know with every cell in my being, if enough people wake up from the dream, they can shift this reality
Oh, we're doing it. We're doing it. So what we're doing in the meantime, while they're jacking us into the matrix, is so I've been studying just like what happened in the other revolutions. What did other revolutionaries and other people who found themselves living in a system that they did not agree with and they wanted to rebel? What is the single best way to rebel? And lo and behold, it's to create a new way. It's to literally just be a different way. There's a way being built that you don't like, then go and build a different way. Go be different. Go find people who are just like you, and literally build it. And that's become my kind of, life's work now, at understanding that there's a lot of people who are going to die, but there's a lot of people who are going to go through an awakening or this near-death point to have an awakening and understand we got to build a new earth and we got to build. And there's millions of people already waking up to that potentiality.
Yeah, and there are a lot of other things that are happening, even beyond what we're discussing in terms of other, what would you say, non-terrestrial, that are also assisting.
Aliens?
No, I didn't say aliens.
You said aliens.
No, I said non-extraterrestrial. See, a lot
non-extraterrestrial.
Yeah. Why wouldn't there be other life who's more evolved than what we are?
Yeah.
Because if we believe we're it,
that's hilarious.
That's pretty human-centric. And again, well,
and so I set out to disprove that theory about 10 years ago. I was like, I'm going to see what I can find to, like, all these things being hui. And I found so much evidence from so many ancient sources, today's sources, all over the place, that all lines up to some kind of existence of some higher order of consciousness, existence, energy, and there's a whole line of kind of life that's living on that, not just us. So.
Because when you look at the Milky Way or you look at any solar systems, the macro is also in the micro.
Yeah.
That it's also occurring in our it's fractal. It's occurring in our own being.
Yep.
So like you said earlier, is this really creation itself going through its own thing, and we're just like in a I used to always say that we're kind of in its baby toe.
Yeah, and I always feel like there's no difference between me and an ant. Because I am
there's
the
some
ant.
difference, but
no, there's difference, but it's like I am the ant. Depends on which scale you look at me from.
Yeah.
I am the ant.
But there's a difference because
and at one point, the Earth is an ant.
It's not even an ant. It's not even.
Yeah. So it's like
it's so small.
It's fractal in such a crazy way that we are insignificant to nothing, yet we are the creator.
However, I believe there is a difference.
No, there isn't.
Between us and like ants.
There is.
Because I believe that we have the ability to think, to rationalize.
I was going to say we're dumber than ants. But
if you look at ants and bees, do they all have the purpose and a power and powerful medicine? Yes, no question.
And they have intelligence of the numbers. They cohesively are highly, highly intelligent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
the hive mind.
Yeah, it's the hive mind, but.
Yeah. Which is what we're getting jacked into, Kevin. They're going to hook us up. I swear to God. Within 10 years, if we are not completely jacked in, like literally a thing on your face to show you reality, where things are going to be imagined.
Like I said.
All the holograms, all the stuff you saw, it's coming.
All the movies.
It's coming. And then they're going to jack you into the Matrix. I don't know if it's going to be like this or
just Keanu Reeves. It's Keanu Reeves.
You're going in there because, have you ever tried a VR game?
Yes.
Have you ever
several
tried a VR
times?
game? You go there and you're like, why would I want to come back to reality? If this was fully good, even I'm like, wow, that is crazy. I was just
for me.
I was just a firefighter in the middle of
I was just the opposite.
I know you were, but like I'm just saying, just thinking like the plebs, like the normal people. We love entertainment and we just want to escape.
You're gonna
give me VR and
you just took the words out of my mouth. You just took the words out of my mouth. For those individuals who I believe, and I know people who are into AI and who are into creating robots and all of these kinds of things, one of the common denominators that I'm aware of is many of them are creating it out of their sense of woundedness to create something that will help me
escape.
Yeah. And why do you want to escape?
Because reality sucks. I've been locked inside because they locked me down. So I want to escape to a world. I want to go be a sorcerer and then an army fighter and then go to war and then have gun battles and stuff and then come back out to my boring life.
But you look at most of the video games, most of the games that are created today, They're all about war and killing and just
so
horrible.
fun. Have you seen the new COD? I'm pretty sure when the new Halo comes out, I can't wait.
Let's just put it this way. The world that I choose to live on is conscious, is more loving. I don't need to have war and wounding in order to live any longer. I served in the military. I did all of that stuff. I saw different perspectives. And what I have and hold today is there is a better way.
So wait, so now that's another whole near-death experience we haven't even talked about. The one that like fucks you up for the rest of your life. There's people who have that.
You mean like a bad?
Like a war, like people, like.
Well, if you look at it from the eagle's
Veterans?
perspective, no, from up high, you can have the perspective that did we go and kill all of these people and for what reason? Yes. If you look at what every war, almost without exception, had one purpose.
Money.
Guised in religion, guised in all of these other things. But what do they have that I want?
Money.
Economics.
Yeah.
Money could be part of it.
Yeah, oil,
but
money.
If you have a
All the stuff,
natural
money, come on.
resource, if you have a strategic location, you have something that I want, why not come to it from the perspective of what they have is the gift that's given to the whole. And what I have as a gift is given to the whole, and we create from there. But see, we've been locked into this we talked about it before, patriarchal. And again, if we really look at it, and this is my perspective, if we really look at it, it all had a place. We created it. Now, what do you want to create?
Let's create beauty, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that was entertaining and it made sense. And love you guys. See you next time.
Thank you very much. Thanks.